Good morning and welcome to People and Projects, a community affairs program of the station. I'm Mark Weinstein, Executive Director of Public Relations at Cedarville University, your host for today's program. So if you're a follower of the news, you know in recent years about the struggles at America's southern border. Well, today on People and Projects, I'm talking with two Border Patrol agents, Jeremy Cheatwood, who has a leadership role along the southern border in California, and Jody Williams, an agent in charge along the northern border in New York. Don't miss this conversation with Jeremy Cheatwood and Jody Williams on today's People and Projects. You know, I watched the news a lot, and I saw a lot of stories, mostly from the southern border, and it looked like it was really a tough situation. Did the media portray that accurately, in your opinion?
On the southern border, it was fairly accurate. I think the news goes in cycles. Right. So over the past few years, the news cycle would be heavy on the border, and then it would go away because something else would happen. I think the biggest thing that I took away from that is, the news would get off focus of what was going on the border, but we were still dealing with it every day. But it was definitely it's been a difficult few years. A lot of growing and learning and dealing with crisis of how many people we would have in custody. But I think the news portrayed it fairly accurate.
Okay.
Depending on which news agency you were watching as well.
Sure, I'm sure. So, I didn't hear a lot of news coverage out of the northern borders. Why is that?
You know, when you look at the numbers that the southern border was seeing, you have to kind of put it in context for the northern border.
Okay.
We weren't seeing exactly their numbers. However, I have some stats here during fiscal year 23 along the northern border. There was over 10,000 individuals apprehended up here. Well, then in fiscal year 24, there was almost 22,000.
Okay.
So we had a massive uptick here. The numbers don't quite pick up to the southern border, but for the northern border, it was amazing. I mean, we more than doubled. And there was the sector to my west, Swanton sector, their apprehensions even outnumbered some southern border sectors last year.
Okay.
So when you have that kind of traffic on the northern border, and it was making the news, at least up here in New England, Swanton sector was, their apprehensions were they just skyrocketed. And I think they even surpassed El Centro and a few other sectors on the southern border.
Yeah, that's news that at least it didn't seem to hit national news as much as we did hear a lot about the southern border. And speaking of the border and border security, we just came through an election cycle, and that topic was front of center in the minds of a lot of voters. And so I'm curious now. You said there's peaks and valleys, and depends on the administration in the White House that's leading. So in a short period of time since the current Trump administration has come into play, how have the border crossings increased or decreased, both southern and northern?
We don't have any statistics yet, but I can just speak for our sector alone. There was definitely a decrease, and some has picked up a little bit. We're seeing a little more from calls from other agencies and local, state and local agencies within the state. We try to do a good job messaging to the locals here. And honestly, without the local support and them calling us when they see things or notice things, they're a major force multiplier for us up here. But definitely has statistically, it has seemed to trickle downward for sure.
Is that the same thing down in southern border, Jeremy?
Yeah, I can speak for El Centro, and it's been a dramatic decrease. I think we had one person cross yesterday in all of the sector, which is about 70 miles of border, where normally it was 50 to 100. And that's been that way for about a week now. Last week, I think in 7 days, we had about 22 people cross at my station, which we used to get that in a shift or in one group coming across, 20 to 30. So it's decreased quite a bit, but it ebbs and flows. So we'll see what happens in the next few months, but it's definitely decreased here.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jody.
Just to put that in context too, for the northern border, we generally see a decrease this time of year anyway. January, February, just environmentally, our border gets nearly inaccessible in certain places depending on snow.
Yeah.
We don't have as much snow this year, so sometimes that does affect. We get cross-border traffic where they just drive across in vehicles. Our infrastructure up here is very limited, and we don't have a fence. We have just trees and roads and not much to separate the two. So we do generally see, and Swanton sector, like I mentioned, they do see a lot of incursions in vehicles. And in the wintertime, it tends to slow down just because of environmental conditions.
Right. One number that I heard was like in the first week of the current administration, border crossings were down 35% in the southern border. And then I've heard even as high as 65% since then. I don't know if those numbers are accurate, but if they are, what's causing that decline in people trying to cross the border illegally? Have you guys done anything different?
So on the southern border, we haven't done anything different. We're still remaining the same posture. We have a very pro-enforcement posture here in El Centro sector. We're out on the border, apprehending everyone who crosses and trying to prosecute to the greatest extent that we can. So we haven't changed our posture. That's a great question on what's changed. I think time will tell what's changed, but yeah.
So earlier in last week's podcast, Jeremy, you mentioned that one of your collateral roles is to serve as a chaplain at the El Centro sector in Southern California. What's involved and what are your experiences as a chaplain? And then on the side note of that is that has to bring like your whole life together, doesn't it? Where you get to bring your faith in Jesus to your daily work, and that has to be very rewarding.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, in reality, as an agent, everyone knew I was a Christian beforehand. So it was just kind of putting a title to the name. And the reason that I became a chaplain wasn't so that I could help more people. Well, it was so I could help more people. It wasn't so that I could help people because I was doing that already. But it was really to put my name out there that, hey, I am a Christian. I'm a chaplain. If you need help, come talk to me. And that's why I became a chaplain. But my daily duties or my normal duties as a chaplain is basically it's a collateral duty. I have my normal duties. It's deputy patrol agent in charge here that I have to deal with. But when someone's struggling or when something happens major and someone needs help, I'm there. So it could be as simple as someone walking into my office and sitting down, shutting the door. Hey, I'm struggling with my marriage. I'm struggling with this. And we can just sit down and talk. Or, hey, I was thinking about going back to church. But I don't think I'm worthy to go back to church. I've had that conversation so many times. To just sit down and talk to them about the love of Jesus and the forgiveness of Christ is great for me. And I put my name out there as a chaplain so that I could have those conversations. And then there's other times where you get what we call activated as a chaplain. Someone passes away or someone is called and said, hey, so-and-so is thinking about killing themselves. Can you go talk to them? Those are more difficult, but that's kind of what it entails, is dropping everything that I'm doing now and just running out the door to go help whoever's in their darkest hour a lot of times, and to help them see that light. And obviously Jesus is that light, and it's just pointing them to that.
Yeah. So what's the process to become a chaplain for the Border Patrol, Jeremy?
So you have to do kind of like a memorandum just of interest. And then there's a whole application process, which you have to get a pastor to recommend you. You have to show your plan for endorsement or licensure or ordination, whichever one you can attain. And then the chaplains so the chaplain, you don't have to be one faith. It's all different faiths. So I'm a Christian chaplain here at the Border Patrol. And then we have to go to an academy, which is 2 weeks of basically learning pastoral crisis is the actual course. So dealing with people in crisis, how to deal with them, how to help them. Just basically, we're just holding them together to get them to somebody that is licensed to help them through that situation. So if someone's suicidal or their marriage is falling apart or they're really struggling, we're just going to get them together, make sure they're safe, and then walk them over, get them to someone that can really help them. Because I'm not a counselor, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not able to do that. But
Yeah.
I do point him to Christ because I know Jesus can as well. He's a great counselor as well. But that's kind of our role as chaplain, is just to help. And then as far as the chaplains, another role that we have is we do ceremonies. So I've done funerals. We also do prayers. So a lot of our events will have an invocation and a benediction. And so we get to stand up in front of our fellow agents. I've gotten to do it on TV at headquarters and just do a prayer over the event and bring God into every event that we have.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a great, fun role to be able to bring God into that
That's
type
neat.
of realm, into the government things.
Jesus is the wonderful counselor. Even though you're not a counselor, he's the wonderful counselor, and he can sustain you. Yeah, that sounds like the process is detailed to become a chaplain, and I'm glad that you have opted to use your gifts that the Lord has given you to serve as a chaplain in addition to being a Border Patrol agent. But there was a time, I think it was, you were in training, Jeremy, and maybe you're having second thoughts. You were about ready to quit being a chaplain. What was going on in your life? What was in your, why, what happened? What was going on?
Yeah. So I had gone to the chaplain academy. It was in Artesia, New Mexico is where that one was held. We held them all over the place. One of the instructors had got up there and said, "Hey, he was kind of giving an instruction on how we can pray publicly."
Yeah.
And he told us that we couldn't pray in the name of Jesus. At that moment, I just basically shut down, let that class be over. I got up, I went to one of the instructors. So the instructor that he was a different religion, he was Mormon, the one that had given that. I went to another instructor that I knew was a Christian.
Yeah.
And I went to him and I said, "Hey, I'm going to leave. I can't do this. Everything that I do is in the name of Jesus. How in the world could I not pray in the name of Jesus?" And he sat down and talked to me, and he said, "Well, that's kind of his view and his thing, and he put it in the curriculum, but it's actually not a part of the policy. It's not a part of anything that we do. It's just his opinion that he was putting out there, but he had written it in the curriculum." He said what he did is he prayed in the name of Jesus anyways. And I said, "I'm not going to get kicked out of being a chaplain or anything like that." He said, "No." And so that kind of kept me there. And I'm glad I did, because I learned a lot of great tools. And I know I mentioned this earlier, I ended up becoming a national chaplain.
Right.
So I was in charge of the chaplaincy program. And I got to rewrite the curriculum. And I made sure that wasn't in the curriculum anymore, because it wasn't a part of the policy. And that our chaplains weren't even being told not to pray in the name of Jesus.
Yeah.
So
do you have any restrictions? Are there any restrictions of how you exercise your faith in Jesus as a chaplain?
the only restriction we have is that we can't go and like proselyte. I can't even say that word. We can't go out and preach.
You can't witness.
Yeah, witness. You can't witness from like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go give a benediction, or I'm going to give this, or a lot of times we give talks on how to handle stressful situations or finances or different things. We give trainings, so we can't go out there and just start witnessing for Jesus in that sense. But the way that works is we have great training. So we have we give Dave Ramsey training. We have different trainings on how to deal with just the stresses that law enforcement puts on a marriage and how to deal with that. But when they come to me on a one-to-one basis and they say, how do I live, or how do you live, or how do I do this? Part of the policy is, hey, you just tell them how you live. So I get to witness to them on how I live for Jesus and how Jesus transforms my life. So that's one of the only restrictions we have, is we can't get up there and say, I'm a Christian, you need to follow Jesus from the pulpit or from the muster room or from the training.
Okay.
But we live that example out. And then when they come to us and talk to us about, because we are a chaplain, we want to figure out who we are, how we live, then we go for it.
That's today's People and Projects program. I want to thank you for spending the past several minutes with me. Please come back next time when I have another guest from Cedarville University who will discuss their life and ministry. Cedarville University is an evangelical Christian institution that offers undergraduate and graduate residential and online programs across the arts, sciences, and professional fields. With more than 6,300 students, It ranks among Ohio's largest private universities and is recognized by the Wall Street Journal as being among the nation's top 3 evangelical universities. To learn more about Cedarville, visit cedarville.edu. That's cedarville.edu. I'm Mark Weinstein. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day.